Hello everyone! Today, we're diving into an extraordinary project, a stunning bamboo house built on a centuries-old tree that stands right over a majestic waterfall. He begins by cutting a short piece of wood using a knife. Then, he carefully removes the outer bark of the wood, leaving it smooth and clean. His skillful hands ensure that the wood is not only functional, but also aesthetically refined. Next, he moves on to crafting the main component of the tool, the axe blade. Using a combination of traditional techniques and careful adjustments, he ensures the blade is securely fixed. With his newly crafted axe in hand, he heads into the nearby forest and begins cutting down several trees. Each swing of the axe demonstrates his strength and precision as he carefully selects trees that are suitable for the structure he plans to build. One by one, he lets the logs drop into the rushing stream below, using the force of the water to help transport them. After navigating the waterfall's path, he retrieves the logs at the base of the old tree his chosen building site. This ancient tree, towering above the waterfall, will soon host an incredible bamboo house. Seated at the base of the towering ancient tree, he begins the meticulous task of cutting the logs into smaller, more manageable pieces. Using a handsaw, he works steadily, slicing through each log with precision. The ancient tree is truly remarkable, with its trunk splitting into two massive branches that form a natural V shape. Taking advantage of this unique structure, he begins by laying thick wooden beams horizontally across the two branches. These beams act as the main support for the floor frame, forming a strong foundation high above the ground. Once the cross beams are securely in place, he moves on to creating the floor structure. Using the shorter logs he prepared earlier, he carefully places them perpendicular to the support beams, spacing them evenly to create a sturdy base. With each log added, the outline of the floor begins to take shape. To ensure stability, he uses small, flexible vines gathered from the forest as natural rope. He skillfully ties the logs together at key points, pulling the vines tightly to secure the entire framework. His knotting technique is simple, but effective, demonstrating his resourcefulness and knowledge of traditional building methods. To further strengthen the floor frame, he begins positioning vertical support posts. He carefully selects several sturdy logs and places them upright, extending from the rocky base beneath the waterfall all the way to the edge of the floor structure. Once the posts are in place, he ties them securely to the floor frame using more vines. These posts will provide additional stability to the platform, ensuring it can withstand the weight of the house and the forces of nature. He heads into the forest once again, this time searching for bamboo. After selecting several sturdy bamboo stalks, he skillfully cuts them down one by one. Once he has gathered a good number, he binds them together into tight bundles using vines, ready to transport them back to the building site. The lightweight yet durable bamboo will play a crucial role in forming the surface of the floor. Upon returning to the construction site, he carefully unravels the bundles and begins cutting the bamboo into shorter sections using his saw. The bamboo logs are trimmed to fit the dimensions of the floor frame, each piece being measured and cut with precision. Once he has gathered enough bamboo, he brings the pieces to the floor frame. Carefully, he begins laying the bamboo sections across the frame. The bamboo is arranged tightly together, ensuring no gaps between the sections to create a solid, durable surface. Next, he takes thin strips of bamboo and places them across the tops of the bamboo sections, acting as a binding to hold everything together. With precision, he ties these strips tightly using small vines, securing them to the frame and the bamboo logs beneath. He takes 3 long bamboo poles and carefully places them across from the edge of the platform to the large rock on the opposite side. These bamboo poles will serve as the main framework of the bridge, creating the foundation for the walkway that will eventually allow easy access to the house. He positioning shorter bamboo logs vertically from the base of the platform to the underside of the frame, supporting the bridge structure. He uses vines once again to tie each vertical piece firmly in place. He prepares additional long bamboo poles, carefully selecting the best pieces for the next stage of construction. Using his saw, he cuts these poles into shorter sections, each one measured precisely for the bridge. After cutting the bamboo, he takes a knife and splits each section lengthwise into thin bamboo strips, turning the sturdy poles into flexible, smooth slats. As he works, he is meticulous in removing the joints from the inside of the bamboo, ensuring each strip is clean and free of any obstructions. These thin, flat bamboo strips will form the surface of the bridge, providing a solid yet lightweight platform to walk on. Once he has gathered enough bamboo strips, he carefully transports them to the bridge structure. With all the materials in place, he climbs up onto the frame of the bridge. He begins laying the thin bamboo slats across the frame, from the edge of the large rock to the edge of the floor platform. Each strip is placed with precision, aligning perfectly to cover the entire span of the bridge, ensuring a smooth and continuous surface. After all the slats are evenly arranged, he takes a few longer bamboo poles and places them across the top of the bridge, perpendicular to the slats. These longer poles act as cross braces, securing the surface and helping to hold the bamboo slats in place. Next, he begins arranging the short pieces of wood on the platform, starting with a row of logs laid horizontally across the surface. Once this first row is in place, he adds another row of logs on top, this time laid vertically, creating a sturdy base for the structure. At the center of the surface, he arranges for logs in a square shape, leaving a small open space in the middle. He chops the wood into manageable pieces and sets them in the fire pit. Carefully, he starts the fire, the flames flickering to life. The warmth from the fire fills the air as he places a kettle over it, preparing for a hot drink. He prepares additional long pieces of wood, carefully selecting the best logs for the next phase of construction. Once he has gathered enough, he brings them up to the platform, carrying each one with steady determination. The logs are placed neatly on the floor, ready to be used for the next stage of building. He begins by taking a long piece of wood and placing it horizontally between the two large branches of the ancient tree, about a hand's width above the floor. With precision, he drives nails into the wood, securing it tightly to the tree branches. This forms one side of a sturdy framework. Next, he repeats the process on the opposite side, placing another piece of wood across the two branches. This creates a balanced, horizontal support structure for a bed. The two cross beams form the base of what will soon be a comfortable, elevated sleeping area. Afterward, he brings the long bamboo poles to the platform, preparing to cut them into shorter pieces that will fit the width of the bed frame. Using his saw, he carefully trims the bamboo to the desired length. Each piece is cut with precision to ensure a snug fit across the bed frame. Once all the bamboo sections are ready, he begins arranging them across the frame, placing them evenly and securely from one side to the other. The bamboo pieces are placed close together, forming a solid surface for the bed. With the final touches in place, the bed frame is complete, combining strength, comfort, and the natural beauty of bamboo. After arranging the bamboo slats, he takes thin strips of bamboo and places them along the edges of the bed frame. These thin pieces will help to secure the slats in place, preventing any from slipping or shifting. He uses vines to tightly bind the strips to the frame, ensuring everything is tightly secured. The elevated sleeping area now looks both sturdy and inviting, ready for use in this unique forest home. From the center of the platform, he builds a vertical post, raising it to a height that reaches his head. He then places a long piece of wood horizontally across the top of the post, connecting it to the branches of the ancient tree. Next, he adds two more horizontal beams just below the upper branches of the tree, positioned at shoulder height. These beams extend out from the peak, creating the sides of the frame. The arrangement of these three main beams forms the basic skeleton of the roof, a classic triangular shape that will provide a strong framework for the roof. To further stabilize the roof, he places shorter pieces of wood, attaching them diagonally from the peak down to the lower ends of the horizontal beams. He uses nails to secure these pieces in place, reinforcing the frame and ensuring it's sturdy enough to withstand the elements. Once the main supports are secured, he adds more bamboo poles, placing them across the roof frame at an angle. These additional diagonal beams will help to distribute the weight evenly and reinforce the structure, giving the roof added strength and durability. The frame for the S-shaped roof is now coming together, ready for the next phase of construction. The S-shaped frame is now fully supported by both the vertical posts and the horizontal beams, with diagonal reinforcements adding strength and stability. After finishing the frame for the roof, he heads into the forest, looking for the materials needed to cover the roof. He climbs up the tall palm trees with skill and ease, using his machete to cut down the large, broad palm leaves. Once he has gathered enough palm leaves, he carefully carries them back to the waterfall area, where his home is being constructed. The journey back is not easy, but with the leaves tightly bundled in his arms, he navigates through the forest, ensuring none of them are damaged. Back at the site, he begins the meticulous task of sorting through the palm leaves. One by one, he separates each leaf from the bundle, carefully inspecting it for quality. These leaves will serve as a durable and weather-resistant layer for the roof, offering protection from rain and heat, while blending harmoniously with the natural surroundings of the house. Once he has prepared the leaves, he carries them up to the house, ready to use them for the next stage of the roof construction. He begins placing the palm leaves on the roof frame, starting from the bottom edge. As he places each leaf, he takes the edge of the palm frond and carefully wraps it around the frame, securing it in place. The natural fibers of the fronds allow him to tie them tightly, ensuring the leaves will not shift in the wind or rain. Carefully, he arranges each leaf in a row, ensuring that the leaves overlap slightly to create a solid, water-resistant barrier. As he finishes one side of the roof, he moves to the other side and repeats the same process, carefully placing and securing the palm leaves in neat rows, working his way toward the peak. With each row, he works his way upward, meticulously layering the palm leaves to build a thick, protective roof. The process is slow and steady, as he ensures every leaf is properly positioned, creating an even, seamless covering for the entire roof. With a sharp knife, he trims the excess leaves, cutting them neatly along the edge to give the roof a tidy and finished appearance. After completing the roof, he turns his attention to the small cooking area he set up near the house. He gathers some small pieces of firewood, carefully splitting them with his knife into smaller kindling. He arranges the wood on the stove, creating a stable base for a fire. Once the fire is going strong, he places a kettle on top of the stove, filling it with water. When the water finally reaches a boil, he carefully pours it into a bamboo cup, the steam rising in the cool air. He lifts the cup to his lips, enjoying the warmth of the tea. He then heads back into the forest, this time looking for a banana tree. He also looks for more bamboo. Upon returning to the house, he sits beside the fire. He reaches into his pack and pulls out a large, durable tarp, a crucial item for keeping out the rain and providing additional shelter. Carefully, he ties the tarp to the back of the house, near the edge of the bed. After securing the tarp, he prepares a simple, hearty meal by the fire, cooking using the newly built stove. Laying down on the freshly constructed bamboo and palm leaf mattress, he drifts off to sleep. The next morning, he steps outside, heading towards the waterfall to wash his face and refresh himself. Afterward, feeling revitalized, he heads back to his small kitchen area by the fire. He begins gathering dry wood, preparing to start another fire. He sets a kettle on the stove. He brings the bundle of bamboo to the floor of the house, carefully laying it out. With his machete, He cuts a short section of bamboo and begins the next step in his project. He splits the bamboo into thin strips, working carefully to ensure each piece is even. These delicate strips of bamboo will be used as binding material, essential for securing various parts of the house and other structures he needs to build. Once the thin bamboo strips are finished, he ties them together into a neat bundle. He measures the back wall of the house near the edge of the bed. He selects several long bamboo poles, choosing those that are straight and sturdy. With his machete, he begins cutting them into shorter sections, each piece precisely measured to fit the width and height of the wall. His movements are deliberate, ensuring that every cut is clean and accurate. With steady hands, he arranges 6 of these bamboo pieces into 3 pairs. Each pair is carefully fixed to the back frame, with a gap between the bamboo pieces in each pair, creating small notches where other pieces of bamboo can be placed. Next, he cuts additional bamboo poles, this time longer pieces, to span across the width of the wall. These horizontal pieces are crucial for reinforcing the frame and ensuring the wall will be solid and secure. He carefully inserts the long bamboo poles into the notches between the pairs of bamboo, starting from the bottom of the wall and working his way up. Each bamboo piece is positioned with precision, ensuring that they are evenly spaced and aligned. He shifts his focus to the smaller side wall. Just like with the back wall, these pieces are carefully inserted into the notches between the vertical poles, starting at the bottom and working upward. Moving on to the final wall at the back of the house, he focuses on creating a slightly different structure for this part. These bamboo pieces will be placed vertically across the back frame, positioned at regular intervals to form rectangular openings. He ties each piece firmly to the back frame using the thin bamboo strips he had prepared earlier. He takes several long bamboo poles and uses his machete to carefully saw them into shorter lengths. Each piece is precisely measured to fit the space he needs to fill, ensuring they will align perfectly with the structure. Once the bamboo pieces are cut to size, he begins the tedious task of stripping off the rough outer skin of each piece. Using his sharp knife, he carefully removes the tough outer layer, exposing the smooth, white inner bamboo. The clean, pale bamboo gives the wall a polished look. The process takes time, but he works with skill and precision, making sure that each pole is fully stripped and ready for placement. He arranges the poles to create rectangular openings, much like the back wall, ensuring that the spacing between the poles is uniform. Once he has arranged the bamboo poles in place, he carefully ties each one to the frame using the thin bamboo strips he made earlier. He heads into the forest once again, this time searching for thick vines that will serve as the base for the front door of his home. He carefully chops them down and begins hauling them back to the house. Once he is back at the house, he picks up one particularly thick vine and begins shaping it into a circle. The vine is flexible enough to bend, but strong enough to hold its form once it's shaped. With patient hands, he carefully coaxes it into a perfect circular frame, ensuring that it will fit into the opening he has planned for the door. After creating the circle, he uses small bamboo strips to tie and secure the vine in place. The small bamboo ties help to keep the circular shape intact, ensuring that the frame will hold up over time. He positions the circle against aligning it with the frame of the house. He then uses more bamboo ties to attach the circular frame firmly. He continues his work by cutting several more short pieces of bamboo. With these new lengths, he begins constructing the front wall of the house. Taking care to measure the pieces, he starts by leaning each bamboo pole slightly, positioning them so that they rise from the floor toward the top of the frame. The poles are strategically placed to create for vertical supports that will form the structure of the front wall. 2 of these bamboo poles are carefully placed at each side of the circular doorway, right at the edges of the frame. He selects several bamboo stalks and carefully cuts them into sections that fit the measurements of the wall. Using his machete, he skillfully splits each bamboo stalk lengthwise, shaving off the outer green layer from one half to expose the lighter white core underneath. Once the bamboo is ready, he begins placing the sections onto the front wall. Starting from the bottom, he leans each bamboo section slightly, with the white side facing toward the circular door frame. After finishing one side of the front wall, he moves to the opposite side and repeats the process. He measures the space, cuts and prepares the bamboo, then arranges the sections with the white sides facing the door frame. His precision and attention to detail ensure that both sides of the wall are symmetrical. Afterward, he heads back to his small kitchen area by the fire. He begins gathering dry wood, preparing to start another fire. He selects a bundle of thin, flexible bamboo strips and begins weaving them together. His hands work skillfully, intertwining the strips into a rectangular bamboo grill. Once the grill is complete, he suspends the bamboo grill above the fire pit using the cords. Taking each fish, he places them carefully onto the bamboo grill, arranging them in a neat row. As the fish cook, he keeps a close eye on them, periodically flipping them with a small stick to ensure they cook evenly on both sides. Sitting beside the warmth of the fire, he enjoys the fruits of his labor. The taste of the freshly grilled fish is enhanced by the rustic environment, a simple yet fulfilling meal after a long day of work. After finishing his meal, he collects several thick vines from the forest and brings them back to his house. Selecting a sturdy, flexible vine, he begins shaping it into a large circular frame, matching the dimensions of the round door opening at the front of his home. Next, he selects small wooden sticks and arranges them in a crisscross pattern across the circular frame. Each intersection is tied tightly with bamboo cords, adding strength and rigidity to the door's structure. This lattice-like design forms a solid base while keeping the door lightweight. With the circular wooden frame ready, he selects thinner vines to create the door's outer layer. Starting at the edge of the frame, he begins coiling the vine in a spiral pattern, moving inward toward the center. He works carefully, ensuring each loop lies snugly against the previous one, leaving no gaps between the layers. To secure the vines, he uses fine bamboo strips, tying them tightly at intervals along the spiral. This keeps the vines firmly in place and prevents them from shifting over time. Once the last loop is positioned perfectly at the center, he ties it securely to complete the design. The result is a seamless door that looks natural and sturdy, yet lightweight enough to function effectively. Once the door is complete, he carries it to the front of the house. Using strong bamboo strips and additional vines, he secures the top of the door to the round frame of the main entrance. This clever design allows the door to pivot upward and downward like a hatch. After completing the door, he gathers several bamboo poles to construct a railing around the front of the house for safety and aesthetics. He begins by focusing on the upright support posts that were previously installed along the edge of the elevated floor. Using his knife, he carefully carves grooves at the top of each post, ensuring they are evenly aligned and deep enough to hold horizontal bamboo beams securely. Once all the grooves are prepared, he selects long, sturdy bamboo poles and places them horizontally across the tops of the upright posts. These beams will serve as the upper framework of the railing. He carefully slots the bamboo into the grooves, making adjustments to ensure snug fit. To secure the horizontal beams, he uses strong vine cords, tying each end tightly to the post. Next, he repeats the process for a second set of horizontal bamboo beams near the bottom of the upright post, just above the floor level. These lower beams will complete the basic frame of the railing. Again, he slots them into grooves carved near the base of the post and ties them firmly in place with vines. To complete the railing, he prepares several short bamboo pieces, cutting them to a length that matches the vertical distance between the upper and lower horizontal beams of the railing. He carefully trims and smoothens each piece, ensuring they are straight and uniform in size for a consistent look. With the bamboo pieces ready, he begins attaching them to the railing frame. Starting at one end of the deck, he places a bamboo piece vertically between the upper and lower horizontal beams. Using thin strips of vine, he ties the ends of the bamboo firmly to the beams, ensuring they are tightly secured and won't wobble. He continues this process, spacing the vertical bamboo pieces evenly along the length of the railing. Each piece is meticulously aligned, creating a balanced and cohesive pattern. As the short bamboo sections are added one by one, they form a series of rectangular gaps between the vertical slats. These gaps are carefully measured to be narrow enough to provide safety while still maintaining an open and airy design. Working systematically, he completes one side of the railing before moving to the next, gradually enclosing the entire perimeter of the deck. To add a decorative touch to the railing, he collects several sturdy vines and cuts them into shorter lengths. He carefully bends each vine into a semicircular shape, ensuring the curve is smooth and even. These curved vine pieces are then placed inside each rectangular gap of the railing. For each rectangle, he uses two semicircular vines, positioning them one on top of the other to create an overlapping pattern. With precision, he secures the ends of the vines to the vertical bamboo slats using thin strips of vine rope, tying them tightly to ensure they stay in place. Each rectangular frame is carefully adorned with the curved vines, their natural shapes adding a flowing, organic element to the otherwise geometric structure. After completing the railing, he carefully kindles a fresh fire, ensuring the flames catch onto the dry wood and create steady warmth. He grabs a bamboo kettle and heads toward the nearby waterfall. Scooping up fresh, clear water, he brings it back to the house and sets the kettle on the fire to heat. He fills a metal pot with fresh water from the waterfall, carrying it carefully back to the kitchen area by the house. Setting the pot over the fire alongside the snails already cooking, he adjusts the logs to ensure the heat is evenly distributed under both vessels. The snails in the other pot are nearing readiness, and he checks their progress by carefully lifting the lid with a wooden stick to avoid the heat. Once the water in the metal pot comes to a rolling boil, he turns his attention back to the snails. Removing the pot from the fire, he carefully pours the cooked snails onto a wide wooden platter. Using a sharpened bamboo pick he prepared earlier, he skillfully pries each snail from its shell, savoring the tender meat with every bite. The warmth of the fire, the sound of the nearby waterfall, and the simple yet delicious meal create a tranquil moment.